And hopefully we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Ross, and we're going to do another Learning with Line 6 this evening. Hopefully all the audio is good, and I'm going to do that awkward bit now where I fill and I go, is the audio any good? And someone's going to pop in the comments right there and say, yeah, it's all good. So I'm just going to do that because there's a little bit of a delay and mumble to myself. And hopefully the picture's kind of okay. I've just got a new camera and it looks kind of weird on the screen, but then I look kind of weird, so it's all good. So yeah, let me know that you can hear me and the guitar's coming through. Nick Cox says all good. Diego, play. There you go. Cool. So we're going to talk about using Helix, PodGo, HX Stomp, HX Stomp XL, any of the HX family or PodGo, and we're going to talk about where you would use it either going into the front of an amp or in the loop, or later, kind of a combination of both, which you can do. So which one would you do and why? Well, there's kind of various things. Let's say you've got you've got your favorite amp. It's a single channel amp and there's no loop. You kind of got to go in the front end basically. So you're going to use any of our stuff as basically kind of a pedal platform thing, and use pedals. You can use preamps as well going in the front end, and that's really cool. And it will give you a different vibe. Just keeping an eye. Jim McDougall, hello from South Africa. Good evening. Seems okay, looks and hears good, marvellous. So yeah, you can basically use it as a pedal board, which I've done, and that's cool. You need to kind of figure out the levels. We'll talk about setting up in a little while, and how you would do that. If you're using a multi-channel amp, and I'll demonstrate this as well, if you're using things like reverbs and delays, and a multi-channel amp, if you're going in the front end and you switch to the gain channel, delays and reverbs kind of sound funky. Now, that's not like a good funky. That's a really terrible funky. In my opinion, you might be going after that sound, and that's okay. If you are, go and get some help, because it's not very nice. Kind of reverbs and delays and things like that in the front of a real kind of filthy amp, it just sounds terrible. So how are you going to set all this up? Well, front end of an amp is really simple. You go into, I'm using an HX Stomp XL tonight. You just go into that and then out of the main output into the front of the amp. You kind of set the level where it sounds good, or you can use it as a little bit of a boost if you're using kind of low output pickups. You just give it a little bit of a bump on the master volume. Obviously make sure on the globals, if you're doing that, you're set to instrument level, not line level, because it will be a massive boost, and probably distort the amp more than you want it to distort, if you want it to distort at all. And it's as simple as that. In, out, set your signal chain up, assign it to the foot switches, and go. Super simple. The effects loop thing is a little bit more complicated. If you're not used to full cable method, it kind of maybe takes a little bit of getting your head round. So if I do that, there you go. So, and I'll switch to a different preset so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, and I'll make this full screen. Right, so here's the kind of signal chain. So basically the guitar's coming in, so guitar into the input, and then you need to put an effects loop in. You'll see why I've done that in a little while. That's kind of exciting. You want to put one of the effects loops in, and then the send from that effects loop, so in this case it is effects loop left, the send from that to the front of the amp, and then the amp's effects loop send into the return of that loop, and then put whatever stuff you want there, and then the main output to the effects loop return of the amp. Hopefully that kind of makes something like sense. And unfortunately my cable for my second camera doesn't reach to where I've got everything set up. So I'll show you my setup real quick, and you can see what we're dealing with here. So guitar is my trusty Yamaha Pacifica 612V, a little bit grubby, needs some new strings. Oh, it's marvelous. Totally stock, except for the pickups. I've swapped the pickups out for bare knuckle True Grit, I believe they're called. So I'm going to move the camera now. This is going to go terribly wrong, and I apologize if I drop something or it goes a little bit funky, but come with me. Come, follow me. I'll show you the setup. So we have the marvelous HX Stomp XL there, and you can see, there we go, look, right. So the guitar is going in there. That's the send, that's going to the front of the amp. That is from the amp's effects loop send, and that is going back to the return. Make sense? Good? Marvelous. And then, oh, it's all going wrong. There you go. So that's the amp I'm using, a Boogie Lone Star head. Going in the front, they're the settings, just so you can see them. And then I'm coming out to a 2 notes captor, and that is going back into Helix Rack, which you're hearing my voice through. And there is a cab sim on there as well, just so it sounds like I'm going through a cab. I've really nearly broken this. This is terrible. Oh, so awkward. So awkward. Ah, there we go. Beautiful-ish. Right, that'll do. That'll do. So that's the setup. Make sense? Right, marvelous. Good. So this first preset is just everything in the front of the amp. So I'm using HX Stomp XL like a pedalboard. You can, like I say, you can do this with Pod Go. You can do this with full Helix, LT, Rack, whatever you like. I'm just using XL because why not? So if I switch to Edit, and now we're going to see that. I'll keep switching back because I need to go full screen. There we go. Right, so this is the signal chain. So guitar's coming in. Because I've got this set up in 4 cable method and the way the effects loops works on this amp, I'm ignoring that. So you can actually kind of have another block if you were just going in the front end. This is just so I can go into the front end of the amp, basically. Because remember, that at the end of the chain, this is the signal flow. Signal's coming in and then going to the front end of the amp. So I'm not doing anything. That's been ignored, basically. So here we go. Guitar coming in. I've got a compressor that looks like that. I've got a phaser. I've got the dyno drive, air apparent. That's my favorite. I've said it before. It's just the best thing ever. A chorus. I've got a delay and a reverb in parallel because I like parallel, and if you've seen any of my other videos, I always have them there because I like it, and it's my preset, so there you go. So there's the guitar, straight into the front end of the amp. There's no reverb on the amp, it's just totally dry. There you go. You can see me as well, because why not? So it's kind of clean. A little bit, kind of a hint of drive on there if I really dig in with a bridge humbucker. But for the most part, it's kind of clean. The compressor sounds like it. And then the phaser. The dyno drive got kind of quite low gain. Just kind of a boost, really. This is my kind of crunchy British thing. I've got a lovely chorus because 80s, and then I'll put the delay and the reverb on. So it all sounds all good so far, but we've not got any kind of boosting in the front of the amp. Now this is kind of where things can go wrong with delay and reverb in the front of the amp. If this was like super pristine clean, there wouldn't be a problem. But if I put this boost on, right, it's kind of okay. If I put an extra boost on for kind of a lead gain, it's all right, but it can kind of get a little bit mushy when you're playing, and the notes kind of just go into oscillation if you're not careful. Now, I have, like I say, the amp I'm using is Boogie Lone Star, and that has a dirty channel, which, just make sure, yeah, cool. So if I switch to the dirty channel, it sounds like that. There's the problem. Sounds great, sort of just dry. I've still got my boost that I can put in front. If you want all the gain. That's lovely and everything, but when I put reverb on, now that's kind of, again, as a special effect, it's all right. So you want that kind of thing. That works okay, but delay can just go into weirdness. So if you are doing that, you need to kind of bring the mix right down. Really down. Bring that down as well. There we go. Yep. So it almost kind of, the delays and reverbs going into a dirty amp, straight in the front of a dirty amp, kind of, it's tolerable with the mixers right the way down. Like I say, you can kind of make it as a special effect. I know Kings of Leon do that, and a ton of other people just straight in the front. And it's fine, but kind of for my tastes personally, I prefer delays and reverbs in the effects loop. So let us do that. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, it can't really get much more simple than that. Everything goes in to the front of the amp. Job done. Boom. If I switch to my next preset, so here we have everything in the loop. Sorry, everything in the loop. Some things in front, some things in the loop. Now, what you are going to see is, I'm hoping you can see my mouse. So guitar comes in. I've got some stuff, and excuse the buzz. Yeah, just mains buzz. There you go. That's a little bit better. Clean channel on the amp. So guitar comes in, same effects, hit the compressor, and then I put the chorus, delay, and reverb in the loop. So that's kind of instantly. So you can kind of hear, compared to in the front, if I turn those on, they're the same settings, by the way. I've not changed the settings. Versus. They're a lot more clear, a lot more present to my ears as well. And the thing is, when you go to the dirty channel, that's where it really shows up. It's like the sound is getting delayed rather than the delay going through the sound, if that makes any sense. Kind of waffling tonight, do apologise. So that works a lot better for me, and especially with time-based effects like delay and chorus, I do that. It's just a nicer sound for my ears. Again, 80s, love it. And then, you know, you're free to put all of that kind of gain on the front and still have that delay. So basically, all of this stuff is in the front of the amp. Here's your effects loop, because remember, this is coming from the amp effects loop, send back into, in this case, HX Stomp XL, but the theory is the same with anything like this. All of these are in the loop. Like I say, I always have my delay and reverb in parallel because that right there is my dry signal. And I kind of, you know, I spend a lot of time crafting these sounds, and I want that sound to be ever there, and I want to add delay and reverb to the sound rather than the sound going through those effects. That makes sense? Yeah, hopefully. Tony's in the house. I'm a tone wizard. Yeah. Toe wizard, maybe. There we go. So there's some sounds. Incidentally, by the way, the cab I'm going through is it's the Interstate 212. It's the Interstate 212 with the 160 ribbon. Stock settings for the rest of it. So that's a real simple kind of setup for the 4-cable method. Fairly standard, dead easy. It's hard to hear my voice, Charles says. Well, Charles, just for you, I'll turn my voice up. Let me go up like what? I'll go up 3 dB. My mic's still there. My mic's still there. I've just bumped it up 3 dB for you, Charles. Is that okay? And now for the kind of weird delay, and I'll go back and carry on talking for a minute. So here's a cool thing that we can do, which you kind of mentioned earlier. It's switched to snapshot mode. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Marvelous. I hear your voice loud and clear. Tony, you have bat ears. So what we've got going on here, again, kind of a same kind of setup. You'll notice I've only got one drive pedal, but I've put a preamp in here as well. Now remember, anything after this effects loop is in the effects loop of the amp, okay? So I've set a few snapshots up here. And I love this. So the Lone Star, the amp I'm using, it's a it's a 6L6, very kind of American clean and kind of hot rodded, almost kind of super boutique drive channel. And that's what the drive channel sounds like again. It's got the compressor on. That's nice. That's just lovely, juicy and thick. But it only does that, right? It does kind of super lovely, lush, clean sounds, and it does just big, thick, meaty, juicy, but smooth kind of gain sounds. It won't do the high gain kind of the brutals, basically, without a selection of pedals in the front. So what I've got here, I've set up 3 snapshots just to kind of give you, Charles says, I would love to try these with my Hot Rod DeVille. It will work with that. Killer time. I always have a killer time with you, Tone. So snapshot 1, that's the compressor going into the clean channel. Now if I go to snapshot 2, you will see I've turned the compressor off and I've put on the drive pedal, which is the air apparent. There's my kind of British-ish thing. The air apparent, it's just so good for that on boost mode, gain all the way up, a little bit of presence, a little bit of tone. In fact, I'm gonna turn the presence down. I'm gonna turn the tone up, just because I like that as well. It's just lovely, and it's yeah. Charles says, "Will I share this?" I can absolutely share this. I'll upload it to Custom Tone and I'll chuck it in the comments in a little while for you. But if you like that last 4-cable method one, you'll like this one. And incidentally, if you've got a Hot Rod DeVille, that is not dissimilar tone-wise to the Lone Star as well. So you should be kind of there or thereabouts, basically. So that's my kind of, you know, British crunchy sound into the clean channel of the Lone Star with the Heir Apparent. And it's just, it's crunchy, but it's transparent, so you can kind of hear that's a humbucker. Yeah, it's a neck single coil. Just lovely. Turn the delay on for kind of a lead. Here's where it gets kind of interesting. So if I leave that Heir Apparent on, go to the drive channel of the amp, it's high gain, it's super high gain, but it's not really metal. Now I could, you know, scoop the mids out even more and add more presence and treble and all of that to kind of get the metal stuff with various pedals. And I can manipulate it, or I could put an EQ in the loop or do something like that. But it's still fundamentally kind of that amp's character. So it's just always going to be smooth and creamy. If I want to play the metals, which I can't play the metals, so I won't try too hard. If I go to Snapshot 3 here, you'll see what I've done. I've turned the effects loop off, and that's turned the preamp on. So I've assigned those to the same foot switch, basically. So remember, that is going out to the front of the amp. With that turned off, the signal's going straight through, and I'm going into the power amp. Okay, so now I'm hitting a preamp, and I've put the Cali 4 Mark IV lead. There's the settings, and that's still going out to the amp effects loop return. So I'm using a preamp within Helix or HX Stomp, whatever. I'm using a preamp, and I'm going into the power amp of the amp. Now this is just a totally different thing. And remember, you've got all of these amps to choose from, all of them. So you can have a totally different character of the amp. So let's go, right, this is kind of as metal as it gets out of a Lone Star. Now I kind of like that, but it turns out my tastes in metal guitar tones are very different to everyone else's. So if I go to Snapshot 3, there you go. It does that thing. I'm going to scoop the mids out even more because I can. Give it a little bit more crispiness. Do the proper kind of smiley face thing. And that's kind of real tight. I did turn the reverb off as well. That's real tight, which this amp kind of isn't. It's normally very loose, loose and spongy. You kind of go back to, in fact, turn the delay on for both. So if I was doing a lead, so this is the Lone Star dirty channel with the Heir Apparent and some delay. Just lovely and smooth and creamy. Go to Snapshot 3. It's got that kind of lovely crispy edge, if that's what you're going for. And again, very transparent. You can hear that's a kind of a neck single coil neck pickup. There you go. So yes, I've used the Mark IV lead channel for that, but you can use anything. Just a kind of a quick example, if you want to go really heavy, never fails with the donk. There we go. Now, right, some of these you might need to use the full amp because of the way the circuit is designed. just to kind of get the level up. I mean, that's just metal. I'm going to stop trying to pretend to play metal now. But you get the idea. So you can basically have an amp that will only really sound like itself. You know, an American kind of flavored amp is never going to sound truly British, but you can get a hell of a lot closer using one of those preamps into the effects loop return. Does that make sense? Yeah, good. There we go. Right, so the next one. This is nice. This is, you see, this is maybe a little bit more complicated. You can tell I need new tubes in this amp. It's very noisy. So here's what's happening here. So this is a really cool trick. If you don't want the hassle of miking up your amp, right? Because, I mean, look, let's say you go and spend $120,000 on, you know, the boutique D-style amp, or D-amp. And then you put an SM57 in front of it, right? It's like, right, okay, I've spent all of this money on this amp, and then I put a 57 in front of it. It's not the same thing. So what you can do with this preset is forget the mic. And the cool thing with this, and I use this, if I ever do use an amp now, I use this kind of setup because I know it's consistent night after night, and I know it's the sound going out front of house that I want to hear because I've dialed in that sound to mix with the band, right? And it's my sound, and spent all of this money and everything and all this time dialing it in. I want the sound engineer to hear that. I don't want to be running back and forth, moving the mic kind of 1/8 of an inch just to kind of get rid of that crispiness or add that clarity or whatever. So this setup is really cool. So again, running through, guitars coming in, we've got some stuff. So we've got a compressor, the air apparent because it's my favorite, phase 90. So you do lose a couple of blocks with this. So you've got to kind of think what you actually need. You might not need any of these, might need different ones or whatever. So we've got the effects loops. So remember, these are in the loop. I can't put these in parallel. So I need to make sure the mix is down. There we go. Right. Now you're not hearing this, but what's happening, I'm going through, there we go. Let's do that. So what's happening here? Guitar's coming in, hitting some stuff, hitting this in the effects loop, this is in the effects loop. Now, before this goes back to the amp, I've split the signal, okay? So I've got a cab sim, and I've got another effects loop send, okay? So if I can demonstrate by, this is with a cab, or a cabinet sim in the effects loop. Parallel, it sounds a bit weird. Actually, it sounds kind of nice. So that's without. Ooh, I love discovering things like that. So I've just discovered you can put a cab sim in the effects loop as an EQ. That's nice. I digress. Sorry. Traditionally, it would sound pretty terrible. So I'm going to put that in parallel. Now, it's going to sound less terrible because there's my dry signal. I'm just adding that to the sound as previously discussed. But I don't want to do that because this is what I want to do. I'm going to turn that on. Now, like I say, I've not got this set up, so I can't demonstrate how this actually sounds for you. But signal's coming in. Before it goes back to the amp, remember, that's my output to the effects loop return. Signal's getting split, hitting a cab sim, and then going to send right. So what I'm going to do here, in theory, that is going to send out to the PA. Okay? Are you following? Guitar's coming in, hitting some stuff, going into the front of the amp, going back, here's the effects loop. Before it goes back to the amp, this is separate. So this is now its own separate signal chain. So my tone is going in, hitting a cab sim, and then going out to front of house. Does that make sense? So now front of house is hearing all of this tone. This is my tone. All of this is my tone. And that's in a cab sim. And again, yeah, 212 in state with a 160 ribbon because I really like that setup. But you've got all of these cabs to choose from, so you can actually kind of go through and find the cabinet. Your cab might be in here. If you're using a combo, the similar thing. But basically, you can select any of these cabinets, any of the mics, move the position and all of that stuff, and you're sending your tone straight to the PA. Now that's awesome because, like I said, it's consistent and it's clean. You don't have the downside of microphones kind of got to be in the right position so it doesn't sound fizzy or it doesn't sound too dark. And then there's drum overspill depending on the mic you're using. You might kick the mic stand over, so on and so forth. So that is a brilliant thing for me because, like I said, I can basically kind of spend a little bit of time, find the cabinet sim within Helix or HX or whatever that sounds like what I'm hearing at the actual amp, and then that'll go to front of house. You know, you can go one step further and add boosts to that, extra levels or whatever, but that, my friends, is brilliant. So we've covered in the front and we've covered in the loop and some of the cool things you can do in the loop. What if you want a bit of both, right? Well, there's two ways you can do that. So basically you can either have, so what I've done here, so you can actually have it on a different preset. You might like the sound of a particular delay in the loop, but then in the same song without switching preset, you might need to go to a different delay in the front for a special effect or reverb or whatever. So all you would do, you would just set up a preset, and let's say that is going to be a delay, that one for example. I'm on the wrong thing. Again, you kind of just got to be a little bit thoughtful about what you do. So that is currently in the loop. I love Sweet Pecco, so good. All I do, move it in front of that effects loop block, and now it's in the front of the amp. And you can instantly hear it's a lot more aggressive if I put the drive channel back on. Oh, that's kind of nasty. You get the idea. There's my dirty drive channel again. So you get the idea. Hopefully, yeah, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have effects in the front of the amp and in the loop. However you want to do it, basically. That's the beauty of this. Do it through different presets, do it within the same preset. With something like Pod Go or HX Stomp or HX Stomp XL, like I say, you've got to be a little bit more thoughtful because you're limited with blocks. Obviously with Full Fat Helix or LT or the rack, you've got more blocks to play with, so you can be a little bit more fruity. And that's that. Fairly simple, really. It's a short one from me today. I usually babble on for hours and hours and hours. Hopefully all of that made sense. Charles, I will put these loops on custom turn and I'll chuck them in the comments for you. Any questions before I go? Otherwise I'm just going to start rabbiting on again. So just go back to the beginning. Yamaha Pacifica, Boogie Lone Star, some of the front, some of the loop. Clever things. Go back and watch the video again. It's going to be on the Facebook page and the YouTube page if you missed anything or you came in late. That's about it from me. Yeah, no problem, Charles. That's about it from me. Next week, I believe we have the delectable Nicholas Bell doing some stuff for you. Tony, I love you more. So yeah, there we go. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Same time, same place next week. Keep your eyes peeled. Loads of these coming. And obviously, if you've got any suggestions of anything you want to see, we've got subjects coming out of our ears that we can do. But if there's anything specifically that you find people want us to cover, then please just let us know. Chuck it on the Facebook groups, the Line 6 forums. We do pay attention to all of that. Brilliant. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.